Hi, I'm Larry Puckett, the DCC guy. Today we're going to take a look at how you go about changing the polarity of your frogs and your reverse loops using Tortoise switch machines and IP digital switch machines. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, for those of you who were wondering why there was no UK Monday video this past Monday, let me point out that in the first video in that series, I did say that I would probably not be doing these every week, that it might be every week, but more likely every couple of weeks or even once a month maybe. In this case, I got busy and just did not have time to complete another video for you, but we will have another one coming up next Monday, and that's going to be on economy decoders for use with UK steam locomotives. So come on back on Monday to watch that video. In the meantime, let's go ahead and take a look at how you can use the contacts built into your Tortoise switch machines and your IP digital switch machines to control your frog and reverse loop polarities. Now, the critical thing for understanding how what I'm going to show you works is to understand first how a Tortoise switch machine and various other switch machines have their internals wired. So on the Tortoise switch machine, if you look first at the bottom, it's got these 8 solder pads here on the bottom. Well, that corresponds to these 8 here on this diagram. And this diagram came right out of the Tortoise instructions. So you can go there and take a look at it. So on that, the pins 1 and 8, or solder pads 1 and 8, they're for the power to the motor. So they would come from the switch that the toggle switch or whatever you use in order to throw polarity to your motor, or it could come from the contacts on an accessory decoder that you're using to control the Tortoise switch machine. Now, if you look at this, 2, 3, and 4 make a single pole double throw switch. So it's a single pole and it can throw 2 ways. If you connect your frog feeder to this contact right here, and then connect these two, number 2 and 3, to your feeders from your DCC power bus that also feeds your rails, then whenever the switch machine is cycled, one or the other of these, number 2 or 3 feeders, are going to be connected to this circuit here, and they're going to go out to the frog. So, depending on which way it's thrown, in this case, the feeder connected to number 3 would complete the path and provide power to the frog attached to number 4. When it's thrown the other way, then the feeder here would be connected to your frog through this circuit and complete that. So that's how the polarity changes at your frog using the Tortoise switch machine. But how do you know? Well, the first thing you want to do, go ahead, install your feeder to your frog, and solder it here, number 4. Then use a couple of these clip leads that you can get. Allelectronics.com sells these in bundles for next to nothing. But at any rate, what you can do is connect these to the 2 pads, 2 and 3, and then connect the other end of the clip leads to feeders from your DCC power bus. Turn the power on and cycle the machine and check the polarity of your frog. If it's correct, fine, you're done. If it's not correct, then all you need to do is swap these 2 feeders. Okay? Take those 2 clip leads and move them back that way. And then test it again. It should be correct then. If it doesn't, then there's something else screwed up. But that's the fastest way. And then once you get it set up, once you know which DCC power bus feeder should be attached to 2 and 3, then you can disconnect the clip leads and solder them on, and you're done. And so then, from then on, every time you throw the switch machine and throw the points on your turnout, the polarity will be corrected to your frog. And you won't have to worry about any shorts for that reason. Now, you might have noticed that 5, 6, and 7 are basically a mirror image of 2, 3, and 4. So you could actually use this one. If these go bad, you can actually just swap the wires and use this one over here to control the polarity of your frog. But you'd have to rewire everything from here over to here in the same fashion. Together, these can make what's called a double pole, double throw switch. And by wiring this up properly, you can use it to control the polarity of a reverse loop. I don't recommend it for the following reason. Now, this right here is a pair of photographs that I took about 30 years ago now, or 25, something like that, for an article in Model Railroading magazine. And what it shows is the internals of the Tortoise switch machine. So these are the 8 solder pads I just showed you from the Tortoise switch machine. And these are the internal contacts that form the switch. Now, this one over here is the original configuration, unmodified. And you can see the little red circles drawn around this open section here. Now, what happens is, as the arm inside here moves left and right, a pair of contacts move across this switch, or this opening here. And when it goes from this one to this one, it hits that opening and it breaks the contact. So what you have here is a make, break, and make situation. So, presumably, as the two arms move across here, there will be a spot right here between them where there will be no power at all moving from one to the other. Unfortunately, the little fingers on the contacts can get out of synchronization. And what can happen is one of these can actually hit this side before this one breaks contact with this one. And that can lead to a short circuit, which is what you're trying to avoid. Now, the way I fixed this on this particular switch machine was I opened it up, and right here, I just took an X-Acto knife and I cut out some of this metal trace here to widen this gap, just to make sure there would never be a situation where you would get that kind of a short circuit. Unfortunately, one side effect of that is that you can have areas in here where you lose power, and as a result, power goes off to your track and you lose power to your locomotive. So either way, it's not a good solution, because this way you can get short circuits, this way you can lose power. So that's why I don't recommend using the 2 single pole double through switches inside of the Tortoise to control the polarity of your reverse loop. So what I do recommend using is a double pole double throw relay that is wired as a reversing circuit. And I'll show you how to do that in a second. But there's one thing I want to show you here first. Okay, so let's assume that you've used 2, 3, and 4 to control the polarity of your frog. That leaves 5, 6, and 7 free. Now, you can use that to turn a relay on and off. Now, how would you go about doing that? Well, a relay is a polarized device that's plus and minus connections to it. So one thing you can do is connect the positive wire from your DC power bus directly to the positive contact on the relay. And then take the negative one and attach it to number 6. And then run the output from 5 to your relay negative. So you get negative coming in here, going through, and negative going out to the relay negative contact. When you do activate the motor on the Tortoise switch machine and the contact cycle and make contact here, then the negative path will be complete to your relay. And the relay will turn on, and it will do what I'm going to show you here in a second. Now, this is a diagram from one of the chapters in my book, Wiring Your Model Railroad. And I want to thank the folks at Comback and Model Railroader for giving me permission to use this diagram. What this shows, of course, is a reverse loop and a way that you can control the polarity here of the 2 rails inside the reverse loop using a relay. So basically, a relay then is just a switch that is electronically activated. And internally, you can see that when the switch points inside the relay are activated, they will move from the black to the red, red to the black, and that would reverse the polarity. So you start out with red and black being active, trip the relay, and everything switches, and it reverses the polarity. So that's very straightforward. And the great thing about relays is they are very fast acting, and you're not going to get any shorts. They are a true make, break, make type of switch mechanism. And you don't run into situations where you have a long delay, because these relays, they will trip on the order of about 3-4 milliseconds, something like that. Now what I have here is the internal diagram for a double pole, double throw relay. And this particular one I'm going to show you in a minute here is a Panasonic, and the number is DS2I-S-DC12V. And don't worry, I'll put that in the description. You don't have to worry about writing that down. And it is a double pole, double throw switch. You can see that we've got 2 poles and it's double throw. Okay? Now, this particular one that I'm going to show you is rated at 2 amps. So that's pretty good. As long as you're not exceeding 2 amps in your reverse loop, you won't have any problems. If you need more than that, you're going to have to find a different relay with a higher rating that is similar. And by the way, if you can't find the particular relay that I'm showing you, all you need is a double pole, double throw relay. And get one that's 12 volts or whatever your bus is. You have to match that because that's what you're going to use to power the contacts here. Now let's look at how this works. These are a polarized device. You've got a plus and a minus connection here. And that powers an electromagnet internally, which flips these little levers here. And those are the switches, because when you have it off, it's going to connect to the black. When you turn it on, it's going to go over here and connect here and connect here. And that would allow you to throw a switch and connect to the correct polarity. However, you might have noticed that you want these set up to be the opposite polarity, not the same polarity. So what I'm going to show you how to do is to wire this so that it's called a reversing circuit, which means you put 2 wires like this, and when this one is red, this one will be red. When this is green, this will be green. And I'll show you how to wire that up in a second. And then each time that you power this using one of those single pole double throw switches in your Tortoise switch machine or in your IP digital switch machine, it's going to reverse the polarity to your reversing loop. So let me show you how that's wired. Before we go on, I want to ask you to take a moment to subscribe to the channel. It's simple, easy, and free. All you have to do is hit that little red subscribe button, and when the little bell comes up, click on it and click all. Okay, now this is that Panasonic relay that I showed you, and I gave you the number in the description, so you can look that up and you can purchase these. Companies like DigiKey and Mouser and All Electronics and Jameco, all of those can supply you with a double pole, double throw relay of the proper voltage and the proper amperage. And so be aware of both of those. Now, if we take a look at the underside here, so you can see here I've marked the positive pole with a plus, and on the other side I've marked the negative pole with a little minus here, just so that I know which is which. In addition, I've used a black wire to go to the negative and a white wire to go to positive. Okay, let's look at the rest of this. So like I said, when I was talking about the diagram for this relay, this is how it's wired. So you have your positive and negative wires here that go to your 12-volt power supply that's going to connect through here, and it's going to give you that electromagnet throw for the switch internally. Now, one thing to be aware of here, and I hope you can see that, right here I have placed a diode. This is a 1N4001 diode. And basically what it does is when this turns off, you can get a surge of current back through here that can burn things out. So you always want to put a diode across a relay. And the white end of the diode here, there's a little white band, and that should face the positive terminal on your relay. Okay, let's go ahead and look at the rest. So I've got the positive and the negative feeds, as I showed you how you could connect that earlier. And then I have these 2 wires that are attached to the common, what was marked in that diagram as the common feed. So those are going to go to the rails. And then down here, I have the feeders that come from the respective left and right DCC power buses. Now, you'll notice here I've got this crisscross, as I mentioned in the diagram. Now, so that allows this red here to be connected to this red contact and this green to go to this one. So that reverses the polarity, so that you're guaranteed that you're going to get a reverse polarity or opposite polarity here at the output and going to your rails. And then every time you cycle your Tortoise switch machine, it's going to turn this relay on and off depending on the direction, and that's going to activate that little switch internally and determine which one of these wires is going to be connected to your rails. And this is called a reversing circuit. I covered this in my book on wiring your model railroad, so you can look it up there. It's widely available on the internet. Just look up reversing switches, and you'll be able to find plenty on how to wire these up. But this is very straightforward. And then when you cycle the switch machine, the polarity of your reverse loop rails will be corrected automatically for you without any short circuits. After you've wired this up, if you find out that everything is backwards, then all you have to do is swap either this wire and this wire or this one and this one. It's a simple matter to go ahead and try it out using those clip leads like I showed you earlier with the Tortoise switch machines. Okay, so how do you go about setting up the Cobalt IP digital switch machine to control your frog polarity? Let me show you that. Okay, if you look real closely here, you can see we've got DCC in, and a frog connection. So that corresponds to DCC in, and frog right here. So all you have to do is take your wire that you're going to connect to your frog, push down on this little spring right here, and insert your wire for your frog here, and release the spring. And that gives you a good firm electrical connection. Then take the green wire that you're going to connect to one power feed, do the same thing on this one. And again, a good solid connection. The other feed, the red one, slide it in there. And that's all there is to it. You then have your red and your green power bus feeds coming in, and then you have a feed going out to your frog. You can then test your frog polarity, make sure it's correct, cycle the switch machine, make sure it's correct. If it's incorrect, all you have to do is push down on the little spring, take it out, take the green one out, insert it on this side, and then make your red connection this way. Just reverse those connections. No soldering, very quick and easy to do, and that's how fast you can make that test. And then check your polarity again and make sure it's correct that way. If it's not, you've messed up somewhere else. So that's how easy it is to correct your frog polarity using the contacts built into the IP digital switch machine. Now, let me also point out while I'm here that these three connections here are a single pole double throw switch, just like on your Tortoise. So you could use these to control your polarity and these to control a relay that controls the polarity of your reverse loop. Very easy to do. Okay, so how do you go about testing the polarity of your frogs or of your track? Well, let me show you. Now, first thing you're going to need a little bulb. Now, this is a T97 made in Mexico. I think it's rated at about 3/4 of an amp, something like that. But any small DC light bulb rated at 12 to 16 volts will do. You don't want to pop it. You don't want to use a 5 volt or something like that because you'll blow it on your track here. And I've taken a white clip lead, cut it in half, and soldered it to the side of the case and to the bottom. And those are the electrical contacts on the bulb. Then all you have to do is make the right connections. Now right now, I have this switch set, or this turnout set, for the straight route. It is not set for the diverging route. So if I connect my clip lead here and then touch it to the frog, you'll see that the light bulb does not come on. However, if I clip it to this other side, which is the correct route, and touch it, the bulb comes on. And that's how you test, okay? Anytime you set it up like that, it's going to work. Now, one thing I can do, I can attach it to this piece of track here and here, and you can see that the polarity is correct. Now, if I attach it to leave it attached to that rail and touch it to the frog, because the frog is of the opposite polarity of this, then it's going to pop on. Again, if I do it here, it doesn't come on. So that's immediately how you can check the polarity of a frog to determine whether it's the correct polarity or not. So let's watch what happens when I connect it to the frog. And I have this frog wired through an IP digital switch machine. As soon as the switch throws and the polarity is corrected to the frog, the light comes on. So I can take that off. And you can use the same procedure to test the polarity of two different rails. If you look here, I can connect it here, and the polarity is correct. I can check it against this one. These two are of opposite polarity. The light comes on. This one is of the same polarity. It's the left rail and the left rail. So the light does not come on. So that's how you can use a simple little light bulb to test the polarity of your truck and to test the polarity of your frogs. Well, that's a wrap for today's video. I hope I've convinced you that you can easily use the built-in capabilities of a Tortoise switch machine or an IP digital to control the polarity of your frogs and your reverse loops on your model railroad without creating any shorts at all and without having to use devices that require shorts in order to do their job. So give that a try on your model railroad. In the meantime, have a great weekend, have a great week, and we'll see you here on Monday with another UK Monday video, and then on Friday with another video from the DCC Guide. Bye now.